Coming to you from 4,200 feet in the hills of Oregon, it's the voice of Chitown, the reddest beard in the high desert, your host of the MOA broadcast, Sam Wilson. Okay, folks, we have a great show lined up for you today. All kinds of good stuff. I can already tell I'm probably going to have to cut some of this on the fly. We're just going to have too much good stuff. A couple of show highlights. Let's see. We've got Naked Florida Man. Of course. Where else, right? More Chicago crime. A bicycle rampage. Backpacking and camping stoves. Got some good info there. And a Supreme Court ruling on police protection. Not a new one, but this one is one that a lot of folks are not familiar with. We're going to cover it. Probably get to that in the second half of the show. So, that being said, I had to adjust my volume there. Okay, let's get to it. First, we go to Tampa, Florida. Naked Florida man accused of stabbing senior and choking child. Guys, you can't even make this up. I mean, I learned long ago in a variety of different jobs I've had in life that reality is far stranger than fiction. Sometimes I tell some people, I tell them some of the things that that have experienced or have happened to me in my life. I don't usually tell most people because it sounds too insane. When you deal with really insane people, and for whatever reason I've come into more than my fair share of contact with them, they do things that are far stranger than fiction. If you were to write books about these things or, have a show about them, people would say, that's got to be fiction. It's over the top. Nobody would actually do something like that. But here we have a real live headline from this week of a naked Florida man stabbing a senior and choking a child. Let's get to the story. A naked Florida man is accused of stabbing an 81-year-old man and putting a 7-year-old girl in a chokehold. Oh my God! In a chokehold on Sunday. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, HCSO for future reference, said at 4 p.m. deputies responded to a call reporting a naked man jumped a fence at a home on Spence Avenue. A 7-year-old girl was in the backyard playing on a trampoline when the man put her in a chokehold. It doesn't say why he put her in the chokehold. The girl's mother witnessed the horrific scene and rescued the girl with the help of neighbors. I can't imagine the terror this mother must have felt as she watched a violent man lay hands on her child. Sheriff Chad Chronister said the bravery shown by her and the neighbors who intervened to rescue this girl is heroic. Now, folks, I know what you're all thinking. What's it like to wrestle a naked man? Fear not, I can tell you from experience, having been assaulted by naked men on more than one occasion, it's not as fabulous as you might think. I'm not going to get too graphic. This is a radio show, and then it becomes a podcast, obviously. We try and keep this family friendly. You'll note the lack of curse words or bleeping things out and so forth. It's just not as glamorous as you think it is, because whenever you're fighting, you don't have time to think about things like, shall we say, hand placement and everything. It's a free-for-all. Okay, so you wind up running into, brushing up on, and touching things that you sincerely regret later on. When you have flashbacks of it, it's not the most pleasant, the most pleasant thing. Also, fighting, you see this in the animal kingdom a lot too. Whenever animals are being attacked or they're fighting violently, it's not uncommon for them to release their bowels. There are a variety of reasons this happens. We're not going to go into a whole biology lesson. You can look it up. It's actually pretty simple. The same thing happens when humans fight. Okay, so what started off as just a bizarre and weird situation of having a naked man attack you often turns into a very messy situation as things start happening with their bodies and exiting at, shall we say, high rates of speed. So we'll leave it at that. But let me just say, it's not the glorious and fabulous experience you might have thought it was. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. The sheriff's office said the suspect fled on foot, but didn't get far. When deputies arrived, they found the suspect hiding under a covered porch in a backyard near Kimball Avenue and Harold Avenue and arrested him. Through investigative means, I'm not exactly sure what that's supposed to mean, deputies learned that after running away from the first residence, the suspect entered another home and stabbed an 81-year-old man. The elderly victim was transported to the hospital and is being treated for his injuries. This individual's evil actions targeted both a child and an elderly person, showing disregard for human life, said Sheriff Chronister. Man, the sheriff's office identified the suspect as Joan Gonzalez Vasquez. After he was taken to Tampa General Hospital, the 27-year-old was booked in the Orient Road Jail for 2 charges of burglary with battery and 1 charge of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. The sheriff's office said Vasquez may face additional counts. So far, no mention of indecent exposure. Man, you got to wonder what's going on. I mean, I don't know about you. My first thought runs to there's got to be drugs or intoxication, of some sort, would be my thought. I don't know, a guess. The article doesn't really say. Because in addition to walking around buck naked in broad daylight, why the additional? I mean, this guy, it's not like these people ran into him. In the first case, he had to jump a fence to get into this family's backyard. And then he started choking a 7-year-old girl on a trampoline, allegedly. I mean, I'm not laughing at the poor kid. That's horrible. But this is, if someone was to tell you that this was happening on TV right now on the news, or it was happening outside your house, you would think they were joking. I mean, think about it. Be honest. If somebody came running into your house and told you that a naked dude just hopped into your backyard and is choking your daughter out on a trampoline, wouldn't you think he was joking? Of course you would. That's insane. And then he left there, broke into a house apparently, and stabbed an 81-year-old man. Wow. I tell you, Florida, they do not disappoint down there. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, if you'll recall from last week's episode, we kind of have given New York a bit of a break or a reprieve from being hammered on their insane levels of crime there. We're going to go back to Chicago, though, because they get no such reprieve. Man, where was this? What part of Florida was this? Oh, it was Tampa. What a shame. I've been to Tampa a number of times, had a lot of good memories. The 2 things that jump out to me from Tampa, and this is going back a few years, but Busch Gardens. So if you've never been to Busch Gardens, I don't know what it's like now. It's been years since I've been there. Busch Gardens was kind of like a Six Flags. It was a theme park, amusement park, and all kinds of good rides. And I mean, this is going back a few years, but I had a lot of good memories. I went several times. We would get tickets and go there as a family. And anyways, it was a lot of fun, but I think that's right outside or right inside Tampa. And the other thing was, that was the first place. Growing up in the Midwest, I had never had a Krispy Kreme donut. And Krispy Kreme, I think, it's a southern-based chain. I think they're based out of North Carolina or something. Somebody will correct me on that. Anyways, they're a southern-based donut chain. And Krispy Kremes, for those of you that never had them, some people love them and some people hate them, but they're a very well-liked donut in general. They're extremely sweet, but it's almost like eating liquid sugar when you put it in your mouth. They're very good when they're fresh. I don't care for them as much when they're cold, but when they're very fresh. So you'll know they're fresh if you're driving through and the big Krispy Kreme sign will be on. It's a neon sign. And if the sign is lit up, I think it's usually red. It's been a while since I've been to a Krispy Kreme. I live in the middle of nowhere now in Southern Oregon, in the hills of Southern Oregon. So when the sign is lit up, I think it's red neon sign. That means the donuts are coming off the line. The neat thing is about a Krispy Kreme, you can go there and you see the donuts coming off the line. It's really cool. And you can get them hot when they're piping fresh. You'll smell it before you see it if you've got a good nose on you. And the donuts they're delicious when they're hot. You put them in your mouth and you take a bite, and I mean, it literally just dissolves into sugar in your mouth. They're very good. I can only eat a couple when I was younger and had a bigger sweet tooth. I don't eat much in the way of sweets now, but I could sit there and eat I would eat a whole a tray of them, a dozen or whatever it was. And I mean, they were good. But if you never had a Krispy Kreme, try one, especially when they're fresh. Don't make your judgment on if it's cold. It's like In-N-Out Burger. I love In-N-Out Burger. I don't think they're the greatest burgers in the world, but I really, really like them. Double animal style when they're hot coming out of the oven or the grill, and they're delicious. And it's a whole experience. Going to In-N-Out for me, and I'm not getting paid by In-N-Out or Krispy Kreme, believe me. In-N-Out, I like their franchise, their modus operandi, the way they do business. It's very organized, it's very efficient, and even though there's a bit of a wait, because every time I've ever been to In-N-Out, even sometimes I went to one early, it was either late at night, I don't know how late they're open, but I went to one after a concert once, and late, and it was still packed. So there's a long line. You got to watch because, it's just, there's always a line there usually. And they're very efficient though. And you order and you take a seat, you get your order, yada, yada, yada. But the burgers are delicious. The point I was trying to make though, before I started to meander off into another story, is because the Phil Collins concert was amazing, that I went to I think it was at the Forum in Los Angeles, California. And the French fries though. So there are a lot of mixed reviews on In-N-Out French fries, and I got to shut up because I'm taking too much time here. But In-N-Out French fries to me are they're decent to mildly good when they're hot, when they're extremely fresh. The minute they get to like room temperature or cold though, I can't stand In-N-Out French fries. I will usually get them animal style as well, which is like with the sauce on there, the Thousand Island dressing or whatever in the world it is, and cheese. I think it's been a while since I've been In-N-Out. But I get them animal style. Eat the fries first, though, because they are a totally different animal, no pun intended, when they are cold or not fresh. Same thing with the Krispy Kreme donuts. Don't judge them if you get one that's been around for a while or that's not, that's room temperature. You get them fresh off the line because they have a conveyor belt. You can get them fresh off the line if the neon sign is on. Get them fresh, totally different experience. Okay, now, let's get back to, where were we? Chicago. Okay. This is a bizarre story. I found every article that I found and researched on this is the most winding story possible. It's not a very linear story, so we're going to try and keep this as brief as possible. A Chicago man, another once great city that I spent a lot of time in, ate a lot of good food, from Lou Malnati's to Giordano's Pizza to Chicago dogs and the popcorn. It's a whole other deal. Anyways, a Chicago man has been charged with killing two people, one of them his own brother, according to family, and injuring another person in Gage Park on the city's southwest side over the weekend. Robert Romo, 57, now pay attention to that name, Romo, it's going to come up later, 57, has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with 3 other felony counts, one of attempted first-degree murder, one of aggravated battery, use of a deadly weapon, and one of aggravated unlawful possession of a weapon. He was scheduled for court on Wednesday morning, yada, 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 been moved to Monday. What happened? So the double homicide first. Officers were initially called to the scene following a report that someone had been shot in the area. When they arrived just before 10 p.m. Sunday, they found an open door toward the back of an apartment building. Officers announced their presence and went inside, and they found 2 victims dead inside. They were later identified by authorities. Now remember, the man arrested was Robert Romo, 57. The bodies were identified as 63-year-old Richard Romo and 64-year-old Rita Chavez. Police say Richard Romo was shot in the head, and Chavez had suffered multiple injuries to her body. A police source later confirmed that Chavez had been stabbed several times. Horrible. And a relative identifying as a cousin of Romo told them that Chavez was Richard Romo's girlfriend. So, according to the story, the way it looks is Robert Romo allegedly has shot Richard Romo, his brother, and his girlfriend, Richard Romo's girlfriend, 64-year-old Rita Chavez. What a shame. But it doesn't stop there. This guy, I don't know what happened. They don't explain what set this guy off allegedly or what happened. But the second incident, which police believe is now connected, unfolded a short time later, just after 10 p.m. at an establishment called Just One More Sports Bar. That business is located next door to the apartment building. Is that it for this page? Okay. Police say during that incident, a 57-year-old man, now remember, Robert Romo was 57. And this is what I mean about this story. Every version I read of this, they dance around this whole thing. So I don't know what the deal is. Maybe the stories were amended or whatever. I don't know. But it appears the same man was armed with a pistol and a knife, approached another man outside the bar and followed him inside. Once inside, the suspect, with his gun still in hand, walked to the back of the bar where he then allegedly attacked a 44-year-old woman with a knife. She suffered multiple lacerations to her body and was later transported to an area hospital where she was listed in good condition. So, man, what a horrible tragedy. And yeah, it doesn't say in this one, but so let's see, he was taken into custody, a gun was discovered at the scene, so on and so forth. A family member who spoke with the news said he believed his cousin went mad and visited the bar shortly after visiting the apartment, but police have not provided any details on what led up to the incidents. So, real shame. At least 2 people are dead. Another person has been stabbed and suffered lacerations. Now, obviously, the point simply being when it comes to situational awareness, I don't really go to bars in the first place. Everyone's free to do what they want, but I have found in my experience in life, very little good happens at bars. I'm not saying bars are bad, and maybe this, what's it called, Just One More Sports Bar or whatever. I'm not saying it's their fault at all, but typically bars tend to lead to, anytime you get people together, large groups of people, and they're, focused primarily on alcohol, you can expect some bad things to follow. But anyway, hopefully they all recover. But remember, folks, we talked about situational awareness. I would have to imagine this guy would be noticeable. I mean, if he didn't have blood on him, or he had to at least look disheveled, I would think. You see somebody coming in like that into a bar, it's time to get out of there. I did, in one of the stories I read, it indicated that a man had intervened to stop him while he was attacking this woman, apparently. So I couldn't find that. I must have said that in a different article. But yeah, scary, scary place. We're going to get into that later, though, too, when it comes to whether the police are going to or have to protect you. Interesting Supreme Court decision. Okay, let me have a sip here. Let's see. Let's go on to listener emails. We're going to move this up because I've got so much good stuff today, and we are going to run out of time, I can already tell. We're not going to make it to that one. I'll have to trim that story on the fly. First email comes to us from Mark. This was an email. Hello, I have enjoyed listening to the show. My question is, why do you have the video versions behind a paywall on Patreon? Why not put those out for free as well? Thank you, Mark. Good question, Mark. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Patreon, spelled Patreon, it is a site where you can basically put up, it's like a social media site where you can put up content, some of which, and you can designate how you want it displayed. Some of it will be displayed free to the public. Some of it you have to pay to access. The idea behind it is it's a subscriber type site. There are a lot of different ways you can set up subscriptions and so forth. But in general, the simplest answer to that question is we do it because a lot of work goes into this. Even though this is a weekly show, it's almost an hour long. We have what I would consider a reasonably high quality audio version, and then we have a reasonable, home quality, even though it's on a good camera, it's HD, video version as well. And the idea being the effort that it goes to edit both the audio and the video, put it all together and produce this show, that takes some time. And I think we put a lot of effort into putting out a quality product here at the Make It Out Alive broadcast. So that allows those that wish to, no one is required to, but those that wish to subscribe, get the video version as part of their package, along with other little videos and updates and behind the scenes. We're working on a lot more content coming up for the Patreon page as well. But that's why, because it takes a lot of time and effort. And, this show goes out as a radio show first, and then it gets uploaded to the popular podcast sites. So the video version, you can find all the information about the Patreon on our website at www.gearconvoy.com. There's a tab at the top that takes you to the MOA broadcast page, and you can find all the info there. So that being said, we appreciate our subscribers. They give us some nice info, get a lot of good feedback. They are usually more engaged than the general public. So we get lots of feedback and info from them as far as topics on the show and so forth. So that is the reason. The audio version gets uploaded to both YouTube at, I think it's Gear Convoy is our channel there, but YouTube and Spotify and our website, everybody can access the audio version for free. So for those like listening to podcasts, that's free. The video does take some time, and that's why there's the paywall. The subscription costs are very small. It's like $5 or $10, depending on what you select per month. So that answers that. We move on to our next one. This one is from Rick, and this is also concerning our Patreon page. Hello, I've been subscribing to your Patreon page. Thank you very much, Rick, and watching the videos of the show for a couple of episodes now. I have to say, you don't look like I thought you would based on your voice. I don't know exactly what that means, but thank you, hopefully. Not in a bad way, LOL. Anyway, I enjoyed the video you just put up the other day about giving your dog Bacon, hilarious name by the way, chicken nuggets. So one of the things we do is we to establish a rapport with our subscribers, I'll post little videos throughout the day occasionally, or every day, every other day, whatever. Just the other day, I took my dog named Bacon. He's a pointer, beautiful dog. He gets a lot of attention from all the ladies. Trust me. He's a lover, not a fighter. Anyway, we were feeding him some chicken nuggets after he was good. He was a good boy all day running errands in town. So that's what Rick is referencing here. Rick says, my dog loves chicken McNuggets as well. I hate to give him McDonald, but it's just an occasional treat. I agree. You got to be careful with McDonald's. Now, here's not to bash McDonald's. Whatever. We've gone over it. We'll get to other things later. But when it comes to McDonald's, my dog, Bacon is his name. Bacon loves potatoes, and he loves French fries. He loves waffle fries. He loves French fries, and he will eat them up. I mean, he gobbles them up. Now, the interesting thing is he loves McDonald's chicken nuggets, or chicken McNuggets, I guess, and he loves Big Macs, but he will not touch their French fries. Isn't that interesting? You got to wonder, because we all know that they used to, cook the French fries at McDonald's in beef tallow or whatever it was at the time. It was real beef tallow, I believe. Now they use some seed oil. They do not taste the same. I don't even really like, and that's another case of where if they're not hot, they're just disgusting. Most French fries don't, improve in flavor as they get colder, but they do not taste good if they're not piping hot. So anyways, no matter what, even if he's hungry, he will not eat those French fries. Just an interesting side note. But back to Rick. Sorry to ramble. This is Rick, not me. Sorry to ramble, but I guess my question is this. Have you really been to all those places and restaurants that you talk about in the show? It seems like a lot. Anyway, thanks for the content. I listen to it while at work, and keep up the good work, Rick. Yes, the answer is yes, Rick. I do. Everything I tell you is genuine. There's no reason I would make that up. In many cases, I can have corroborating witnesses if you would like to hear them. But I've lived all over the United States in my few short years here on Earth and from coast to coast. So, and plus I've done a lot of traveling for work and such, not as much recently, but in the past quite a bit. So, yeah, all those things are real, and you can check them out if you like. If you read these things, you can go to Google Maps or wherever and check these places out. They're 100% legit. So that's my answer to that. Thank you again, Rick, for your support. Okay, now we are going to move on to backpacking and camping stoves. Now we've got a couple of feedbacks about people they like the focus on the outdoors and the backpacking and camping side of things. So today we're going to talk. I mentioned last week we talked about hammock camping as opposed to being in tents or shelters or whatever else. So I've done a lot of backpacking. Some years I've put in literally a couple 100 miles on the trail while backpacking. I haven't done any of the big through hikes like the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian or anything like that. Haven't had the time for that, but usually I would do a 3 to 4 day trip, and I like covering miles. I'm not superhuman. I've never been in fantastic shape, I guess, not for a long time anyway. But I would typically, if I was by myself or had one other person with me that would keep up, I would easily put in between 12 and 15 miles in a day. And that's because I focused on mileage. I like mileage, and then I like to sit there and drink coffee around the campfire. That being said, I've got a good bit of experience, in my opinion, on backpacking and camping. More backpacking, more so than camping. But stoves. So if you are not familiar with backpacking or camping stoves, there are a number of different types. I'm going to go ahead and read off the main types that you typically encounter, and then we'll kind of go through the pros and cons. There's the choo-choo train, if you hear that in the background. Remember, we're not doing this in the sound booth. We do this in the knife shop so that we can do the video as well, so you have to deal with a little bit of background noise. Okay, now the primary different types you're going to encounter as far as backpacking stoves are the fuel canister or the cartridge types, the white gas stoves, alcohol stoves, and then like wood burner or twig stoves. Now there are more types. We're not going to go into every single exhaustive type, but those are the primary, in my experience, the primary types you encounter here in the U.S. While backpacking. They've all got their merits. They've all got their pros and cons. So what it really boils down to is you need to go and try them out and find out what works best for you. The good news is most of these stoves can be had if you buy American, or especially if you buy Chinese versions, like off Amazon or eBay. You can get, each one of these types of stoves usually for under $50, and many of them you can get for under $20 or even under $10 if you hunt around for them or buy them used. So you get a chance to really try them out, see what works best for you, and then you kind of adapt it. Because whenever you go backpacking, what you got to do is you got to build a system, is really what it boils down to. The gear and the equipment you have at the beginning of your backpacking journey, I don't mean the actual trip, but when you first get into it, it's going to be very different, usually, from the gear you're going to have, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10 years into it. Because you make adjustments, you make improvements, you get rid of this, you acquire that, and so forth. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit more in depth. We got to take a break. When we get back from the break, though, we're going to discuss the camping stoves, and then we're going to get into the Supreme Court decision on police protection. When we get back from the break. More Make It Out Alive with Sam Wilson after this.